You probably know him from this. Well, 3 decades on from the release of the original film, The Lion King has roared back into movie theatres with its prequel, Mufasa. Well, plenty has changed since the 1994 film, but one thing has stayed the same, and that's vocal performances from the legendary composer Lembo M, who arranged music for the original movie. Well, we now have this pleasure of speaking to Lembo, who joins us from Johannesburg. Lembo, thanks so much for coming on the programme. You're back in the Pride Lands again after 30 years. Why did you want to be part
Yes, ma'am.
of this prequel?
Well, first of all, good evening and thank you for having me. I was invited, thankfully. I got the first call some 2-3 years ago from the studio informing me that there will be a prequel of The Lion King called Mufasa. Little did I know that 2-3 years later I will be in the premiere red carpet. So I'm grateful for that.
And Lebo, you collaborated with songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda on the music for this film. He said he couldn't have done this without you, and he's actually called you the secret sauce to this film. How does it feel to be described as the secret sauce?
Well, the irony of it is I've been a big fan of Lin-Manuel from when I first saw his Broadway show in The Heights, and of course Hamilton. So it's the strangest thing when a dream comes true and you end up in the studio with your hero. And I'm grateful that we're able to create this product in the manner that it came out to be. And I'm very honored that not only Lynn, but also Barry, the director, said some wonderful things about me. And I'm grateful. It's been a great 30 years. And now with Mufasa, we're entering another 30 years. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, Lebo, let's go back to 30 years ago when you gave the world that iconic opener to The Circle of Life in the original Lion King. You've now returned with Nengboso in this film. Your music is the emotional heartbeat of these films. Why do you think it resonates so much with people?
I think just the overall story. I've been involved from day one. I was one of the 4 original composers, myself, Elton John, Tim Rice, and of course my friend Hans Zimmer. And having done all the Broadway shows and gone around the world with Hans and arena tours, I can clearly now appreciate how this global phenomenon has touched people's hearts, especially I think mainly because people can identify with every character in the storyline. Now that we're doing a prequel and having been to both the London and the Los Angeles premiere and now South Africa, it's truly amazing to see people connect emotionally. And I think they connect emotionally because everyone in every family can identify with all the characters. Of course, selfishly, I think music being the driver of the Broadway shows and all the movies which I've done, all of them, I think it adds a lot more credence to the project. And lastly, I think The Lion King in 1994 and the Broadway show when they opened and now Mufasa, creating African content is such a high quality in the world also has set the bar high and has created a better and greater appreciation for African stories and African content. And I'm really grateful for that, to be part of it.
Well, Lebo, you haven't had an easy life. You were born into poverty in South Africa at the height of apartheid. Talk to us about how it was growing up with so many restrictions around you, and how did you get your big break?
Well, I think being born into poverty in the middle of apartheid, and when I left home at age 16, I was really honestly driven by a dream to be somebody and to survive. Many years I lived in exile in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. and New York. I lived in the streets in Los Angeles from 2008 until, 1983, what am I talking about, 1983 to 85. And my big break really came in more than one way. I was a runner and a coffee runner at Johnny Clegg's studio with Hilton Rosenthal in Los Angeles. And Hans Zimmer was there visiting his friends, starting a project. And he was introduced to me. The next day I went to his studio and we did our first movie, Power of One, which opened the doors for me to do the Oscars and many other things. But really, Power of One, I think, set the tone for Hans and myself to be brought in for The Lion King, and the rest is history.
It's incredible, an extraordinary story, extraordinary films. Lebo, thank you so much for joining us on France 24 and speaking to us here. That's Lebo M, who is the legendary composer, speaking to us there from Johannesburg.